Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
Are great salespeople similar to great athletes? They certainly have a desire to win, and for many, sales can be more lucrative than sports. But it's not easy to be the best, and it's not something for the weak of heart or the lazy of character. So lace up your cleats as Scott and I examine sales lessons from great competitors and other fascinating info on episode 580 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this topic. When you kind of put it in the contrast of competing or being lazy, some people, I think, just want to go back to bed. When they kind of get up in the morning and they go, oh, I'm just not ready. I need a me day. And
they're still living in COVID. They've still got their jammies on at 9.
Yeah. I tell you, and if you just got up a little earlier and went on a 3-mile walk, it's amazing how you get the blood going. But
there you go.
We'll get to that topic a little later, and I'm looking forward to your insights, and I'm happy to share what I've uncovered when it comes to great competitors. But before we dig into that, we've got the book club, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Final section, part 4, chapters 7, 8, and 9. So we're finishing up the book. Bill, and I'm really grateful that you suggested this book. I have not read it in many, many years, and I know it's a habit of yours, and there are some great reminders in there. So thank you for sharing it with me and our listeners.
It's interesting by reading it and having to talk about it and not just reading it for myself, how much more I got out of it. This is, for me, this is the number one self-help book for creating a better life. If you want to spend some time and you haven't read it with us, get this book and start reading it. So let's get into it.
Chapter 7 is Give a Dog a Good Name. And this reminds me of us to look for the positive in others and acknowledge it. And when we acknowledge it and we're recognizing a high standard, and when somebody is not living up to that standard and they have a history of delivering great performance, we can recognize the gap. And it's only because of their great performance that we are able to compare their current performance. And this is out of the book. It says, because you have been such an outstanding mechanic in the past, I felt sure you would want to know that I am not happy with this situation. And perhaps jointly, we could find some way to correct the problem.
Wow. What a powerful statement.
It really is. I mean, it acknowledges the standard that they've set, their performance and credibility that they've had in the past. It also recognizes them in the human dignity, and it also works on collaborating. Perhaps jointly, we can find a way to correct this problem. And as a leader managing a sales team or managing employees, sometimes your employees know more about the task and the obligations than leadership does. And if you really ask them to be able to work with you to find a solution to create a better way, you're creating that collaboration.
But what you're saying, Scott, is this may be a more powerful statement than, hey, Scott, you're slacking off. Get your butt to work and work harder.
Yeah. Being critical does not attract a lot of affection from people.
Well, we do too much. We do too much drive-by leading.
Yeah, right.
This mechanic's in his bay working on a car. We walk by, yell at him a little bit, and walk on. And he's sitting there thinking, "What the heck did I do today?"
Yeah. I mean, the drive-by leading, that's interesting. I've never heard that before, Bill, but it reminds me of Tom Peters, who would always talk about management by wandering around. And when he was a leader of a manufacturing plant, he would just walk around the plant and just see what's going on. And he would learn so much by finding people and witnessing their actions and being able to understand some of the context of their activities and to know when something is area that needs to improve or something that's going really well. So another part of the book is, this is a quote out there, if you want to improve a person in a certain respect, act as though that particular trait was already one of his or her outstanding characteristics.
Yep.
So you're really giving them the benefit of the doubt and saying, I know you can do this. I've seen you do it before, and I'm not sure why it's not happening right now. Could you share with me a little bit about what's going on in your life?
Yeah. Well, building people's confidence before asking them to do something new or to re-engage in an area. As I said, you've always been a great mechanic. What's going on? Right. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Maybe. And the guy didn't even realize that he was slacking off. But because he was given a good name, he lived up to us. I like the story he told about the dentist who noticed that his spit cup was dirty,
Oh, yeah.
and he told the cleaning lady, "You do a great job. Why don't you take an extra half hour every once in a while on special things like this drink cup?" And the next day, that cup was gleaming,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because he had told her, "You do a great job, and here's a special area that maybe we haven't noticed before."
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying, "Hey, you missed this whole," just how we relate to people is just so important.
It really is. And when we find great people and we've worked with them, and we know how hard it is to find great people,
Mm,
those smallest gestures make the biggest impact on a person's performance, and just acknowledging and recognizing them. And it's interesting to hear the principle with the title of this chapter, and the principle, give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. And
yeah.
if you were to separate these two, I don't know if I'd put these two together. The chapter, give a dog a good name and give another person a fine reputation to live up to.
Yeah. All right.
The next one is chapter 8, which is make the fault seem easy to correct. And like you've shared in the past, here's the principle: use encouragement, make the fault seem easy to correct. And there's a story in this chapter. The story is about someone learning to play bridge,
Mm,
and the teacher responded with, there is nothing to bridge except memory and judgment. And I thought, wow, that is really profound. I mean, isn't there a lot of situations in life that are just broken down into memory and judgment? And when we think about success and preparation, it's memory and judgment. As we prepare, we remember what we want to cover, we deliver a presentation, and then we exercise good judgment when it comes to a response.
right.
And
Right.
and it was just a really good chapter in that regard, and finding a situation and not making it overwhelming, catastrophical. Because if it's
Yeah.
not horrific, everything is terrific. And those are the words of Dennis Prager. If it's not horrific, everything is terrific. And I really love that line the first time I heard it.
What this section made me think about was small victories,
Mm,
helping people to have small victories, break down the difficult task into small things. And the story he told of the boy who wasn't very good at math, and his dad put together a set of flashcards, and they timed him against the clock. And he said, when you get down under so many minutes to get them all correct, we'll do something special. They
mm-hmm.
worked every night together until they got really good at it. And he broke the barrier, and it broke him through into thinking he could do other things
Right.
as
Wow.
well. And so often with salespeople, we give them the go get them tiger speech, and we send them out. Why aren't you working with them every week on some small area? I thought, why don't we have overcoming objection flashcards
Oh, yeah.
where
Yeah.
we just have, here's the objections. What are we going to say? What are we going to say? How are we going to deal with it? And we just go over that until we get good at it. But no, we wait until the customer comes up with an objection, and we go, well, it's
Yeah.
really good,
Right.
and then we have nothing to say. And no
Yeah.
wonder we're not very good at selling, or we get beat by the competition. We don't practice and we don't learn.
Right. I use this technique when I'm dealing with objections with prospects, and my response is I say, that's my fault. I did not do a good enough job of explaining that. Can I have some more time to go through that with you again? And I really put all the burden on me when it comes to objections with prospects. I
Mm-hmm.
screwed up. I didn't explain that, and I'd like to go through it again.
That,
Principle 8 is, use encouragement, make the fault seem easy to correct.
right.
All right, chapter 9 is making people glad to do what you want. And the principle is make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest.
Mm.
And I really believe in this particular principle is that self-interest is the greatest motivator. And if you can appeal to their self-interest, they will want to do it. And when you back it up with sound logic, you're working with the whole brain, emotional and logical,
Mm-hmm.
and really creating a reason why people can do it emotionally and justified intellectually.
I think the thing that struck me about this was that they told a couple of stories about putting the worst offenders in charge of the process, right?
Yeah.
The person who wasn't putting the price tags on right became the official price tag checker of the store. And now that person had this reputation that they wanted to live up to, and they were going to be in charge, and nobody was going to make a mistake with the pricing stickers, right? And so It reminded me of the old Tom Sawyer and the whitewash
Right.
fence example, right?
Right.
Boy, I sure love painting this fence here, and if you give me a dime, I'll let you paint some too, and but people just, they like to be part of something exciting.
Right.
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 So make it exciting. Quit making everything such a drudgery. You got to go price these and you better get your pricing right and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Be creative with people.
Right. Right. Yeah. I remember my summers on the farm, my grandfather would always say, let's just get it done and we won't have to face it later. And it's like, wow, that is so true. Let's just get it over with and we won't have to deal with it anymore and we'll just be done with it. Okay, let's do that, Grandpa. And
Yep.
we'd go and do whatever task we needed to do.
Your grandpa was a wise man.
He was very wise man. So the principle number 9 is make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. So next week, no book club. And on the following week, we're going to be starting Spin Selling by Neil Rackham. And this is just a world famous, award winning, has sustained the test of time sales book on questioning techniques. And I think this is one of Bill's favorite areas, right? Of the discovery, the interview, and getting information.
Yeah, I just can't wait to go through this book again. Obviously, I read it years ago, but it has been a while.
And what we really look forward to is the application of the content to the current marketplace, because everything that we share with you in the podcast, our goal is that it is relevant in today's marketplace. Stay tuned.
But they're the ones that have to make it relevant.
We need to give them advice and direction that works.
That's right. That's right. Well,
does it work?
I don't know about my advice working, but let's go into our main topic, and that is sales lessons from great competitors. So I read an article that, and actually I heard something. There's a book out there about this too, about what great competitors, sports competitors do, and how that applies to business. So I kind of wanted to apply it to sales, and looked over some of these principles or these characteristics that they talked about great competitors, and so Scott and I are going to bounce back and forth like we do and talk about some of these characteristics. And the first one is, it's always personal. They love to win, but they really hate to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that salespeople love a contest. They love to beat somebody in the area of their quotas. They love to beat their quotas. They love to have a goal. They want to beat last year's numbers. And we need to talk about that a lot. But I think the most important thing is they need to also believe they can win.
Mm-hmm.
So when we set goals, we must have goals that they feel that they can agree to and are attainable. Now, we do know that many salespeople would rather beat the Little Sisters of the Poor by 100 points than beat, the Los Angeles Lakers by 1. Right.
Yeah.
So we do have that kind of in our makeup. So don't let them push your goals down too far. Those goals have to push them a little bit, but make sure that they're participating in those goals.
Yeah. And you always get better when you play against somebody that's a little bit stronger and a little bit better. It's transferable. And another
but you
thing,
take the chance on losing, though, right? So,
well, yeah. But I mean, if you lose, at least you know where you are.
That's right.
You know that you got to get better. But if you don't know what the score is, you're not keeping score. You don't know where you are.
So, other thing I think about when you're losing, as you mentioned, that you take that chance, take the anger or frustration that you have, and use it as motivation to get better. Right.
Good advice.
If we just say, okay, I got mad because I lost, and then we don't change anything, then we're not doing ourselves any favor. You lose at that quota that month. What are you going to change? Not, I'm going to just go do the same thing I did last month.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, and that's adversity and dealing with adversity. So my first one is they have contagious enthusiasm, and when they subscribe to a higher level, they bring people with them. They bring people that want to be like them. And when you want to be similar to and like them, you end up increasing the caliber of other people that you hang around. And they see you as a contributor, and hopefully you as a leader can also see other things that you can contribute to other people's lives when you have that type of relationship where you've got that bond and you're really expressing that contagious enthusiasm with everybody.
Yeah, I think the key word for me was the enthusiasm part, is that they are able to look at everything and provide energy. When you're in a leadership position, and sales is leadership,
Hmm.
You're the one that sometimes has to bring the energy. You're the person you're sitting down in front of doesn't always have that energy about the topic, or they're worried about it, and they've been thinking about this problem and trying to deal with it. And so you've got to bring the energy that says this can be solved, this can be overcome, we can do a better job. And it's that enthusiasm that we bring into everything we do. It's easy to be down, and it takes a
Hmm.
special kind of person to be up all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So true.
All right. My second one is they rub elbows with the best. The power of association will draw you up. And I think that believing that excellence is attainable is crucial. Sometimes we don't think we can be better. And when we associate with people that are better and we see that they, and as they say, they put their pants on one leg at a time, we think maybe I can do it too. And so we build our own belief by being around people who are better at what they do. And winners, I think, have a different language than do people who are defeated. Winners look at themselves to improve, and they use failures, as we said, as a learning opportunity. When the defeated people, they tend to blame others, right? The guy's playing tennis and he makes a bad point and he looks at his racket like his racket did something wrong, right? Or the football player who misses the catch and looks at his hands. It was you, look to yourself, get better. And I think that the winners look to find a reason in themselves for whatever they lost. So look at the language of the people you're around. Are they talking about winning things, or are they talking like the defeated?
Yeah, I'm for some reason I'm thinking about golf and watching some golf athletes when they hit a bad shot and they end up kind of retracing that shot and doing it over, and this time doing it right, and they want to build that association with, in this situation, here's how you play that shot. You don't play it that way, you play it this way, and
Right.
you
They
want to
always take
replace
that.
it.
They always take that second swing.
Yeah,
They hit
yeah,
it and didn't go quite right, and then they'll revision and take a new swing right
right.
there with no
Yeah,
ball there. Yep,
yeah, yeah. So true. So
that's
true.
cool. All right.
So my
What's your
number
next one?
two is they visualize victory, and this reminds me of Tiger Woods. I heard that his secret to putting is that he's about to take a putt. He takes a mental picture of the line that the ball is going to follow. Then he stops, takes another picture to compare one against the other, stops, and then finally takes the final picture and then putts the ball. He visualizes the ball following that line that he has picked, and the speed and the trajectory, and watching it go in the cup. I mean, he visualizes it. And I think visualizing victory is concentrating on positive outcomes. I think about situations where I'm about to drop my phone, or I drop my phone and I can visualize catching it before it hits the ground. I really truly believe that I'm going to catch it before it hits the ground, and I'm doing everything I can, and I have not surrendered to that. I have not resigned to the fact that that phone is going to break and crack the screen and it's going to be over for that phone. No, I visualize catching the phone.
Well, can you
And that
ever imagine? Can you ever imagine Tiger Woods getting up, addressing the ball, and thinking to himself, "Boy, I can't hit.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
No,
yeah, this
never.
thing's going to go in the woods."
Yeah, yeah.
They don't. They always visualize the ball going into the cup. They always
Mhm.
look at any basketball player. They don't imagine a big, thud on the rim. They imagine a swish
Yeah,
every time they put it up. Their brain is already automatically doing it. And I always think about the human body and how we can take a basketball and from 30 feet away throw it through a hole that's about 5 inches bigger than that ball.
yeah,
And we can do, somebody can do that over and over and over again. The mechanics that our brain and our bodies can put together, that a professional ball player can hit a baseball coming in at 100 miles an hour with 6 inches of break on it at the last moment, and they can, hit it over the fence. It's
yeah.
just amazing what our brain and body can do. But we visualize doing those things right. We don't visualize making a mistake.
Yeah, yeah. Great. What's your number three?
All right. My number three is they always prepare, even off season, and there is no off season. And as you read about champions like Kobe Bryant, Larry Bird, as you mentioned, Tiger Wood, they were always the first to arrive and the last to leave practices. Now, Harvey Schmedlap, he hardly ever spent time practicing.
Right.
You ever heard of Harvey Schmedlap?
No, I
That's
haven't.
because he's not a champion, because he wouldn't practice. I just heard a
Oh,
quote about Kobe Bryant, and they said you're kind of a ball hog. Why do you always want to take the last shot? Your teammate, he's open and you're not really open. Why don't you pass it to him? And he said, because I saw what he did at practice.
Oh, yeah.
He was on his phone playing
Right.
around. He was goofing off. He was late to practice. He left early. I'm throwing the ball to me because I
Mm-hmm.
trust me.
Right. Wow.
So I think that, most salespeople, they hate to participate in practice sessions because I might be embarrassed by making a mistake in front of my peers. And so instead of that, who am I going to make the mistake in front of, Scott?
Right.
My
Nobody.
customer. My
Yeah.
customer.
Yeah.
I'll make
Oh,
the
my
mistake in front
customer.
of my
Yeah.
customer, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we don't get better during games. We do the best we can during games, but we aren't willing to try something new. That's
Mm.
why we have practice sessions.
My number 3 is that they have a strong inner fire and desire. I think desire, that's the first chapter of one of my favorite books, Think and Grow Rich.
Mm.
And it's adversity is, we talked about that earlier. Adversity is the fuel and victory is theirs. And when we deal with adversity, we've overcome something, and that causes a need for celebration. I was listening to a podcast where they were interviewing Lou Holtz, and Lou Holtz talked about leaving Notre Dame. And he said, I left Notre Dame because I was just tired of maintaining. And when I'm just tired of maintaining and I'm not striving to reach a higher level, there's no reason to celebrate. And when you're maintaining, you're not celebrating. And I
Yeah.
just got kind of tired of it. I wanted to do something new and better, and he wanted to move up to something else.
Yeah. What did he
So,
turn around 6 programs or something like that? That within
oh,
a
I mean,
year he
yeah,
had him in a bowl game.
right. Brought everything to a national bowl game. Every
Yep.
department, 6 or 7 of them, incredible at Notre
Yep.
Dame.
Yep.
Just absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we build that strong inner fire. When we don't have that fire to be good, maybe we should look around at doing something else or doing what we started to have that fire at the beginning. So what are we doing to build that inner fire? How do we build that desire? And I think learning about your craft, learning about how to sell better is part of that inner fire. A great champion, he or she wants to get better at their game. They don't want to just be the top of the game. They want to get better at the game and be the best there ever was, right? The GOAT, the greatest of all time.
Right. Yeah.
That's the goal.
Right.
So
Focus on what you want and remove everything that prevents you that from happening. And you need to decide what are you going to stop doing before deciding what you're going to start doing. I think
yeah.
too often we try to start something and then we get overwhelmed and we get stressed out. It's like, wait a minute here. We can't start anything unless we remove something in our day that we're doing that we should not be doing and don't want to be doing before we can start something that we want to be doing.
What are your distractions?
Yeah, exactly. Remove the distractions.
All right, my last one is they have ice in their veins. They want the ball when the game is on the line. I kind of mentioned that about Kobe Bryant, but let me read this quote from Michael Jordan. I never looked at the consequences of missing a big shot. Why? Because when you think about the consequences, you always think of a negative result. Some people get frozen by the fear of failure. They get it from peers or from just thinking about the possibility of negative results. They might be afraid of looking bad or being embarrassed. I realized that if I was going to achieve anything in life, I had to be aggressive. I had to get out there and go for it. I don't believe you can achieve anything by being passive. I'm not thinking about anything except what I'm trying to accomplish. Any fear is an illusion. You think something is standing in your way, but nothing is really there. What there is an opportunity to do your best and gain some success. If it turns out my best isn't good enough, then at least I'll never be able to look back and say I was too afraid to try. Failure always made me try harder the next time. Boy, does that encapsulate kind of everything we talked about?
Wow, that is wonderful. I mean, if
That's
people
amazing.
are listening on their iTunes, they can just hit a backup and hear that 30 seconds again from Bill. It's worth
From
listening
Michael
to
Jordan.
Yeah.
One of the
yeah,
GOATs, right? One of the
yeah,
greatest
right.
of all time.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people are compared to him in sports, and he's
Yeah, but
over.
do you want to be in on the big sale? Or do you want somebody
Absolutely.
else to do it because you're scared?
No, well, I mean, there's kind of different beliefs on that. Do people like to work alone, or do they like to win as part of a team? And there are days where I like to work as part of a team and win, and there's some days where I feel like nobody can do it better than me. So I struggle with both sides of that, Bill. I mean,
Yeah,
and
but I think as
everybody
a
does.
champion, we want to be in on the big deal.
Right?
We
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
participate, whether we're part of it or whether we're taking it over. That's the fun part. That's when it gets exciting. That's when we get focused, when we know the big one is on the line, right? We do more work. We do more things. We do more preparation because this is a big deal.
Right. Yeah.
All right. What's your last one?
Great one. Great quote. They adjust on the fly. So I consider this like in quarterback doing an audible. They consider options ahead. And when you have options, you maintain control. And above all, think about the people in your world that you can call on. Build your professional network with people that you can call on to do favors and for you to give a fee to. So you can hire them too, or introduce them to one of your clients or somebody that you know, but really build a team of specialists, people that are able to give you the information in a short period of time specific to what you need. But really being able to adjust on the fly says, I'm going to be able to predict the different distractions. I'm going to be able to create options to overcome those. And it might take a little bit longer, but we're still going to get there. And that's the goal, is to get there.
Well, I think about the quarterback who's willing to make an audible. He, first of all, as you said, he knows the people around him are people he can trust. Say, hey, I need you to run a different route. I'm going to hand you off the ball instead of passing it. They know that those people are flexible. But what they really needed to be is they needed to be so knowledgeable that when they get behind the center and they look out at the set that the defense has, they know what that defense is going to do.
Yeah.
And so then they make the audible. And I think that is where we have to get more educated as salespeople. We can't only have one path that we can take. We need to, when we go in there and we see the sale moving in a different direction than we planned, that's when we have to call the audible and start asking different questions and being better at what we do. And if we never practice, and if we never get better, if we never read, if we never learn, if we never listen to podcasts, we're just not going to get better. What's going to happen to you if you read a lot is you're going to be in the middle of a sale and something's going to strike your head and you're going to go, oh my, here's a great idea. And you take that sale to completion and you don't even know exactly where the idea came from, but maybe it came from How to Win Friends and Influence People, or maybe it came from spin selling, or maybe it came from Scott. And those things will come into your mind and you'll do something better because you've gotten so knowledgeable that you saw where the customer was going before they did.
Well, this has been a great topic, Bill, and I have included a link in the show notes. So if you want to go to episode 580, you can get a copy of the all of them. I think there were 16 of them, and learn from the experts in being competitive. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Our golden nugget today is: some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, others make it happen, by Michael Jordan. So very applicable to the topic today.
Man knows how to win, doesn't he?
I love that that quote. I mean, some people wish it would happen, some people make it happen.
That's
right.
Some people wonder what's happening.
Yeah, it's like, what happened today? Well,
That's
I had this, how come you couldn't make your calls? Well, all kinds of distractions, but great quote.
All right. All of this information you'll find at winningatselling.com. So our contact information, please contact us, send us a note, ask us a question. We love to interact with the audience.
So next week, no book club. We're going to have Tom Geske talking about the winner's attitude, unlocking the power of a positive mindset. Subscribe and share this podcast with your colleagues and on social media.
Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.